Hi guys, welcome to Let's Talk for a new episode with my co-host Dimitri. Myself, it's Akim. I'm etc. on eToro, and we're going to discuss the recent market sell-off and the recent dips and the recent dip buying activity also that we witnessed in the stock market. On Monday alone, just Monday, one single trading day, the market lost almost $2 trillion of market cap. $2 trillion. That's like a mega cap tech stock that goes essentially to zero, right? That's the equivalent of it. So that's how big the shock was. So let's try to unwind what happened and why did the market basically crash, but why did it rebound also so quickly? So for this episode, you noticed for the ones who have a visual on the video, I'm wearing black because we almost had a Black Monday. At least we had the fear of a Black Monday. So Dimitri, when you woke up on Monday after a weekend, already Friday was a little bit shaky, right? And then you
Yes.
spent a relaxed weekend. You were maybe preparing to buy the dips, or maybe you were thinking that Monday the markets would rebound, and you woke up, and then you saw the futures. What was your reaction? Did you expect the drop in the futures?
So on Friday, we got uh, Amazon reported and barely missed estimates. And the stock was down by almost 10%. So I did some buying there. And so it started from Friday. Then during the weekend, crypto was having losses Saturday and Sunday. So we didn't have much of the weekend. And on Monday morning, because we are in Europe and we wake up earlier than the Americans, in some point in the morning, maybe it was like 10, 11 o'clock, I'm looking the futures and the Nasdaq is down 6%. I'm like, wow, 6%. I mean, yeah, we get corrections in a bull market at least once a year of 10%, but we're not getting it in a single day. So
Absolutely.
I was like, okay, we are in for a Black Monday, and it was a Monday, and then the market opened, and initially it was a bit crazy, you know. I mean, we're on eToro and we're reading the feed, and people trying to play cool that nothing is going on, but you can't tell people are losing their minds, and but towards the end of the day it got a bit better. Somehow,
Mhm.
some people, and according to reports, the funds, the professional investors, the institutional investors, they did something they never do. They bought the dip. They bought the dip on Monday. So
Mhm.
maybe that was what stopped the bleeding towards the end of the day. But personally, I'm not convinced that the correction is over. I think
Mhm.
I think we're going to reach that 10% level that is what makes the correction. Up to
Mhm.
10% and less, it's a pullback. More than
The
10%, it's a
pullback.
correction.
We will
So
go into it. We will go into the outlook in the next couple of weeks and in where do you think we stand and how to face, because we know it September is approaching, is usually a tough month. So to sum up a little bit what we said is on Friday last week, the stock market started to dip already
mhm,
because of weak earnings
yes.
of mega cap tech like Amazon, but there were some other weak earnings like Alphabet, which is the
Mhm.
parent company of Google. When I say weak earnings, it's fantastic earnings, actually. It's just the problem is that those stocks, they just met expectations,
Yes.
right? They just grew as expected. And when you're in a fantastic bull market here, where you had really bull runs for months now on those stocks, barely meeting expectations is not enough. And I'm
Ag-
not even speaking
Agree.
about missing certain points in the expectations, right? Uh, Alphabet missed expectation on YouTube ad revenue, and the whole street just panicked and sold off the stock. But the fact is, those stocks are growing, they're solid, they continue to grow. Um, they just didn't smash expectations this time. All right.
Yes.
Sometimes they smash them. It didn't happen this time. They just met them. And I personally think it makes sense to buy the dips like that when they happen. I bought more of Microsoft, for example, and you bought more of Amazon, so that makes sense. But what we saw during the weekend and why on Monday we had this huge sell-off, it has nothing to do with the earnings of any company. It was more of a structural movement. And the reason is the Bank of Japan raised interest rates a little bit, a tiny bit. It was at 0.1% and increased to 0.25%. So that's almost not noticeable. But what happened is you had a lot of money going out of the US and returning to Japan. Because what Japanese investors were doing is they were borrowing rates at 0.1%. They were borrowing money at 0.1% rate, and they were bringing that money, going in the US and buying risk assets with leverage, right? But now that the Bank of Japan started raising rates, there was a panic. Japanese investors sold Bitcoin, they sold tech stocks, they sold everything. And so not everything, but they sold a lot, and they brought a lot of money back to Japanese territory. And this is what happened on Monday. It was a huge trade. I think in total it's about a $4 trillion trade we're talking about. And that's why you had almost $2 trillion that were basically burned from the US stock market, but they actually exited the US stock market. They're not exactly burned, they exited the US stock market. And that caused the Monday drop. And in my case, I aggressively bought stocks on Monday, and I remember posting it on eToro, and people were going crazy when I announced that I massively bought on Monday. They were saying, "You're crazy. The entire stock market is completely overvalued. We're gonna drop another 30%." You know, the usual panic that you have, right? I still kept cash on the side just in case, and I still have just in case we continue to drop. This is what you were starting to discuss, and we will discuss the outlook. But on Monday, I aggressively bought a lot of stocks, and I increased my exposure to risk assets. I actually bought Bitcoin. I actually bought Ethereum to my portfolio. They never were in my portfolio. I added them. I think it's really attractive, the prices we have now. They might drop further, don't get me wrong, but I think it's really interesting now. We're in a stage in the Bitcoin cycle that we expect, you know, a real price acceleration there until next year. But I bought also volatile stocks like Nvidia and some other tech stocks that I added. I even added PayPal. PayPal, a lot of people are not very fan of it because it dropped a lot in recent years. But I think we have a very beautiful bottom now. I bought ASML, which has very critical technology. So on Monday, I aggressively bought and I posted on eToro. Everyone got nuts about it because people tend to forget to zoom out. When you have days like that happen, the first thing you need to do is to zoom out, all right? To understand the reason. The reason is the Japanese trade. There's no other reason. Earnings are fine. Interest rates cuts are coming, all right? And we know it. The first half of August is usually a bit shaky. It's the worst half of the year usually. Dimitri,
So
when you on Monday you mentioned you saw the futures and you were like, oh shoot, what's happening? And then you saw closer to the end of the trading day, the hedge funds started buying the dips.
kind of things.
Did you also start buying, or did you feel like maybe it's too risky now, I'll wait till the market settles down a little bit?
No, I didn't buy anything on Monday. I didn't buy anything this week so far because I bought on Friday, but that was more earnings related. It wasn't related to the carry trade and everything that started this sell-off that we experienced on Monday. And because I remember a couple of more of these, maybe not to this magnitude of the S&P losing almost 3% in a single day. It doesn't happen that often. The S&P usually It's the Nasdaq that it loses more, and the S&P usually holds. If the S&P loses 2%, you know it's a really bad day. It
Yeah.
lost 3 on Monday. So I didn't buy anything on Monday, not because I was afraid, but because my portfolio was already, it's a bit concentrated. So, and you don't know where the bottom is, and you always try not to pick bottoms and tops, but Nvidia, it's my second largest position. Nvidia was down a lot. If I bought more, it was going to be my top position. I'm not sure I'm comfortable going with Nvidia before their earnings, because their earnings is on August 28th. So we're still waiting on them. So and I never buy.
There's some risk there, right? Because they need to
Yes.
smash earnings.
Oh yes.
Otherwise, the stock price is going to
If
dip. They need to
they
smash them.
do you imagine if they miss earnings, what is going to happen? Everything related to AI is going to the toilet the same day. Okay. So Nvidia for me, it was untouchable on Monday, not because it's not a good company, it's because I already have like 8% of my portfolio in it. So I didn't want to make it 10. So that's
Yes.
the reason I didn't buy Nvidia, not because it's not a good company.
I went from 0 to 1%
You
in
went from
Nvidia,
0 to
so
1.
it's
So
still fine. And
yeah,
I will wait for the earnings to see whether I multiply that exposure,
yeah,
because as you said, the earnings the end of August,
yes,
the timing is very scary
yes,
because usually September is the worst month of the year.
yeah.
That's when hedge funds are doing their sales, and they're preparing for the reallocation for the last quarter. And September is usually the worst. Historically speaking, is the absolute worst of the whole year.
Mhm.
And Nvidia having the earnings at the end of August is
Yes.
really a scary timing, because uh, even if they meet expectations, just barely meet and maybe miss, I don't know, in the AI segment, as you said, it it will flush the entire AI toilet. Uh, Entering into September, and
Yes.
September could really become very chaotic. So uh, we don't give investment advice in the show, and I just want to make this clear. We have the disclaimer in the description of the show, but I personally, for September, I'm keeping cash. I make sure to have some cash on the side, because it is likely that September this year again will give some really fantastic opportunities that you can enjoy, and that will increase your return for the last quarter of the year. And or what do you think, Dimitri,
Yes.
about the outlook for the rest of the year?
September and February, it's usually the seasonality. Uh, people come back from vacation, and they're sending their kids to school, so they're spending their money on different things and not as active in the markets during those 2 months. So usually low volume, and the volatility could spike. So if you are if you are patient, you can make a plan and you can say, you know what, I'm invested 90% or whatever, but I have another 5 in my portfolio, and I have another 5 or 10% that I can access really quickly, just in case. That's what you do, and that's what I do as
Mhm.
well. And because that's the seasonality of September and January and February, that sometimes, basically most times, happens. You were talking, by the way, about August, that August is coming, and you got it like the second day in of August, and then the shit shows started. But you know what is interesting? And now it's, of course, after the fact, how many things happened during these last 10 days that resulted to the thing that we got on Monday. So it's a carry trade that you explained, that you borrow
Mhm.
money in one currency with low rates, and you're risking it into a different currency with higher rates, with Japan, the US. One thing that most people missed, but I don't think you missed because you are invested in bonds, the bond market it had like a seven straight days of rally. When we say rally, it means the rates were going down because people were buying more bonds. So that was another one. Some weaker.
And you know why they were buying, bonds? My portfolio is 20% in bonds, so I noticed it, and it was very pleasant. But in normal circumstance, I would reduce my exposure to bonds and buy more stocks when stocks sell off and bonds rise. But we have the interest rates coming soon, and the reason the bonds went up, and I liked to see that, because usually that's how it's supposed to be by the book.
Yes.
Stocks go down, bonds go up.
Yes.
2 years ago or 2 years ago, when we had the bear market, everything was down. Stock, bonds, everything, even gold, everything was down. But I liked seeing this, and I think for the next couple months, what we will see is both bonds and stocks going up. And the reason bonds went up is because some economic indicators in the US flashed a little bit red, a little bit scary, like unemployment started rising. And the market started panicking, saying, oh, the soft landing thing is compromised, right? And the Fed might have to cut more and faster. But in a way, I find this a little bit hypocritical that markets. So I'm personifying a bit the markets, right? I'm saying markets are hypocritical. Markets are not actual humans, but still they follow the irrationality of the human beings behind. And also, if people tell me that machines are doing the trades, well, it's humans programming those machines, to do the algo trading. So in the end, it always comes up to the human emotion. And I do find it a bit hypocritical that the markets drop when the unemployment is going up and they expect the Fed to cut more and faster the rates now. Because this is literally what we've been asking for months now. For months and months and months, maybe for more than a year, we were saying unemployment needs to rise, labor market needs to weaken, and the Fed needs to cut more and faster. And this is happening now. It's becoming a reality. Unemployment is rising, not too fast, very slowly, but it's rising. Labor market pressures are going to come down. That's good for earnings for most companies. And the Fed will cut interest rates, which is great for valuation of most companies. So why would you sell off your stocks and your holdings when you have this perfect combination of things happening? And in my opinion, we're still heading to a soft landing. I don't, for now, of course that could change, but I don't see a crash happening for now. And employment a bit up, inflation is getting very close to 2%. But yeah, the Fed needs to move a little bit and to cut a little faster. But that's also very good for both stocks and the bonds that you currently hold, not for the newly issued bonds, but for the ones that you currently hold. It's great.
So you're correct. The Fed has to. So on top of what we just mentioned, for the bond yields, they were rallying. It means they were going down because people were buying more bonds, which usually a reaction to economic indicators getting worse. On top of that, also during the weekend, it was the Iran-Israel potential conflict escalation. So it was that as well into the equation. So it wasn't only one thing to pinpoint and said that was it. No, that wasn't the case. It was like a bunch of things together, okay, and resulted to the incredible Monday sell-off. So sometimes as investors, we want to simplify things and say, you know what, the market went down because that thing happened. That's not the case usually.
It's a mix of factors.
It's a mix of factors, and you don't know what the factors are until like a few days later. And in the meantime, if you didn't buy anything, then you just missed the train, and then you're gonna have to wait for the next one.
But all of them are temporary. All those factors are temporary, and I think we were able to understand them on the spot. The markets panic, but if seasoned investors, they went through. I mean, you yourself, you went through incredibly difficult days just 2 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And I think you're seasoned enough to zoom out and be like, okay, everyone is selling. I'm
Mhm.
just gonna buy, or I'm just gonna do nothing. I'm not gonna sell my stocks at a discount. Why would I sell at a discount? Why would I sell when the sales are here? What you usually do when you go to your favorite store and your favorite products are on sale, you usually buy the products, right?
Yes.
If you have no cash, you don't buy, okay? Or if you have enough of those products, you don't buy. But when it's on sale, you buy. And I think it's as simple as that. And when the markets are dropping, you buy. Sure, it could get more on sales later. Keep some cash on the side, buy later when the prices drop more.
Yeah.
But don't buy when, I mean, in general, I say don't buy when the markets are rising. This year was a bit difficult because it was rising for weeks and months and months and months, and you can get very impatient. But usually, when it rises and rises and rises, there is a pullback or correction or even a proper crash. So be patient. Have price alerts on the stocks that you want to buy, the ones that you already in the portfolio or not, but have price alerts. Make the valuation of the stocks and try to estimate the fair value and put price alerts. On Monday, I had a lot of price alerts that popped. That were my phone was ringing the whole time saying PayPal is now a buy, ASML is now a buy, Nvidia is now a buy. I honestly uh, was very surprised. The price alert that surprised me the most is Nvidia, because I've been telling you for weeks now. For me, the fair value of Nvidia is $100. I'm not gonna buy above $100. The Nvidia was trading at 140, I think,
Not too,
a month or two
maybe
ago.
like 2, 3 weeks ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was trading at around 140. I
140.
think I think in June for sure, and then it started selling off the first week of July, maybe something like that. So about 4 weeks ago, it started falling slowly at first, and then it accelerated. And right now, it looks like a falling knife.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the chart, but I think we're at the fair value, and I got the price alert, $100, and I couldn't believe it. And I open eToro and I see $99 per share for Nvidia, and I immediately bought it. I made it 1% of my portfolio.
Mhm.
Um, maybe I will regret not having uh, invested 5% or 10% of my portfolio.
What did I
But
tell
it
you?
looks like a falling
What did
knife
I
and earnings are coming.
what did I tell you on that day? What did I tell you on that day when I looked at your portfolio and I saw Nvidia? I told you just a bit more. You don't have to go all in, you don't have to go crazy, but I would maybe 2%. But it's gonna give you a chance because we're not out of the woodwork, so you're gonna get another chance to you're gonna have another shot on Nvidia.
If we were in March or in November and
Yeah.
it was $100, I would have made it 5%. But we have Nvidia earnings coming and we have September coming. That's the
Yes.
thing. We have September coming. And and the first 2 weeks of August are not over. That's just the first week, right? And the second week is usually very difficult for the markets, and
Mhm.
September is very difficult for the markets. So I'm still risk averse to some extent because if I increase Nvidia, it means I decrease the other stocks in terms
Yes.
of percentage of the portfolio,
Mhm.
and I'm not comfortable at this stage. It's something I might regret. Maybe I don't have the courage to do it at this point. But if we look at the chart, it does look like a falling knife. It looks like like a stone dropping from the sky for the moment, right?
Until
So
until August 28 is going to be like that until we get some clarity on the earnings
yeah,
and and also on Nvidia, they said that the latest chip is going to be delayed.
yeah,
Um, it's called Blackwell, I believe the latest chip about AI, which is like $40,000 a piece, something like that.
okay.
It's going to be delayed. So basically everything that could go wrong went wrong this week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also why I'm not super confident about the Nvidia earnings is ASML, another stock in my portfolio, had earnings recently, like 2 weeks ago, and ASML has been growing for like double digits for like a decade now, practically double digits every year. And
Mhm,
on average, about 18% growth every year in the last decade.
mhm,
And is expected in the next 5 years to grow also at least 14% per year, also double digits.
mhm,
But this year is the worst since 2012. It's flat growth. ASML, which is in the same sector as NVIDIA,
mhm.
ASML has a monopoly in its lithography technology, and it had flat growth because it's not having any orders. The orders are kind of paused for a lot of its customers because they're not sure where the economy is going and they're scared to order too many chips.
Yes.
And if that happens with ASML, there's a risk that Nvidia announces the same on at the end of August for its earnings, that there's a slowdown of orders, right? And if there is just the word slowdown in the earnings call,
The 10% drop, like the moment.
just if there's that word slowdown or uncertainty, uh, then it's gonna be a bit challenging. And because I saw it in ASML, I'm thinking Nvidia will there will be some impact on Nvidia. I don't think there's SML is an isolated case because its technology is used on all the chips.
Yes.
And if there's that slowdown there, and that's why Nvidia also has been selling off, I think, and it accelerated after what ASML said. The
Yeah.
investors and the markets are not stupid. I think they realized it. So I'm just gonna see where it's gonna bottom out, and then I will increase it to the level of Microsoft and Alphabet, where both of them I have them. I think they're around 5% of my portfolio, and I will have Nvidia at the same level.
Oh, if you have
Um,
Nvidia 5%, it's gonna keep you excited for sure during the weekdays. When things, but um, and another thing I want to point is why I didn't make any moves on Monday. So my style is to do my buying immediately after earnings. Okay. After earnings, if something goes wrong,
mm,
they missed estimates, revenue, or earnings per share for whatever reason, and but the fundamentals don't change. It was just seasonality or maybe
mm,
trade or whatever the case may be, then I'm buying the next day. The market automatically prices the miss on the next day, then you get a discount, you move out with your day. That's my style. On Monday, it was so many things going on at the same time.
mhm,
Everything basically was on sale, and when everything is on sale, it's you have to get more creative. You have to know exactly what you want. The things that got most of sale on Monday, they were usually my top positions: the Nvidia, the Apple, not Apple, Nvidia, Amazon, Microsoft. So, and then in the back of my
So
head, what?
yeah, you didn't buy? You didn't buy then?
No, no, I didn't buy on Monday. I put on
Mm,
Friday Amazon, and then I got it even further up. And then I'm like, okay, so let's assume this thing goes for another day or two. And I'm
mhm,
buying and I'm making so I was just making the risk management in my head, thinking what to do on Monday. And I'm like, okay, I'm not convinced this is over. And I made a post about it saying day one, because I'm convinced that the second half of this didn't happen yet, and it's going to happen. I'm not saying it's going to happen at the same magnitude at 3% S&P down, but I expect a continuation of that. And if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. I don't mind. I don't mind just doing nothing in the meantime. As long as you don't sell anything, panic sell, then you are a winner.
mm,
If you
yeah.
manage to buy, then you are on your way to profit.
Mhm.
So, so what
So do you buy when there are bad earnings, but the fundamentals are unchanged, the price
yes,
drops, you buy. But very important, fundamentals unchanged.
yes.
What if the earnings are fantastic and the stock price goes up? Or the earnings are bad and the stock price goes up anyway. You don't buy, you don't touch.
You don't buy, you don't touch, you leave it there and you let it
Mm,
let it do its thing. And some positions you can go months and quarters and years without increasing it. But
yeah.
during the year, you're gonna get a decrease because some big fund is rebalancing, and whatever company is down 2-3% for that day or 5% for the week for no reason, no news,
Mm,
no news about the stock, then that
yeah.
that's a benefit to run a small portfolio because I only have 21 positions, so I can follow them very closely. And
Indeed.
and
But you know, at the beginning of the show, if we come back to it, I don't know if you remember, but you said that look, the S&P tends to drop 10% every year on average. It happens once a year.
yes,
Every 3 years, it even loses 1/4 of its value,
yeah,
if you can believe it. But every year it loses about 10%. It doesn't happen in one day. It happens in several weeks, as you mentioned in the beginning of the show. Um, and you said you expect that to happen in the next couple of weeks. Is
yeah,
that right? Is
yes,
that right? So uh, you confirmed that, and I'm going to ask you a question, and it's not going to be a pleasant one.
yeah.
Looking at your portfolio, you have no cash left.
Uh-huh.
Looking at your cash balance,
I have 2%,
2%,
2%.
2%. What can you do with 2% of cash?
Uh,
Is that enough
no,
to
but
trade
I'm
September?
I'm going to do my monthly deposit in next week anyway, which I do every month. That would do it another couple of percentages
Okay, you do it every middle of the month,
every
or
middle of the month. Yes. So I
Hmm.
try to do between 2 and 3% every middle of the month. So that would,
Regardless if it's a good month or a bad month, you do it
regardless,
systematically,
yes,
right?
systematic.
Just to be clear, and it's always like the same amount or
The
similar
same,
amount,
no,
right?
the amount increases every month. The percentage stays the same because
Okay.
my portfolio grew from last year. So
Mhm.
the amount increases, but the percentage try to be between 2 and 3. So with a
Mhm.
5%,
Noted.
let's say by the mid of August, in the next week or so, I'm going to have 5% in the portfolio, 5% cash. 5% cash, it's more than enough for me to buy within a sell-off because um, if I do 5 moves and I add them by 1%, then it makes a huge difference.
Mhm. Talking about your portfolio, I mean, the episode is not focused on your portfolio, but
Yeah.
there is some interesting numbers there. On my side, it's pretty boring, but you so far, August is and we just started August, but so far it's the worst month of the whole year by very far for you,
Yes.
because of the sell-off in Nvidia, etc.
Yes.
You lost 8% of your portfolio value. But
Mhm.
at the same time, and I wanted really to congratulate you on that, but you also need to do some explaining.
Mhm.
The number of investors that you have in your fund
Yes.
grew by 66%,
Yes.
66% growth. You
Yes.
went from something like 60 investors, and you have right now, as we speak, you have 100 investors.
Yes.
Um, did eToro users, the eToro investors, buy the dip of your fund?
Oh my God. So, so what happened?
It feels like that's what happened. Like, because you're very exposed to Nvidia and to big tech, the investors were like, all right, let's buy the dip. And that's what we also saw in the stock market this week. There was some rebound in the stock prices
Let me
of
tell
these
you,
stocks, huh?
let me tell you what happened. So I'm on vacation, okay? So I'm trying to leave Mykonos, get to the airport, and get home. So I'm packing my stuff, and my phone is ringing, going crazy. I'm getting notifications that I'm getting new investors, new copies. I don't know what is going on. I can't see the reason. Maybe I got on the Discover page, and that was July 30th. And So apparently eToro sent a notification out that my 23 and my 24 years combined compounded, it was almost 79%. And people got
Which is impressive.
yeah, and I got copied. And because that happened to me, listen, if that didn't happen to me, we don't have a sell-off. I'm telling you.
You had the worst month since over, let me see. We're in 2024, 2023. We need to go back all the way to December 2022. So
Yeah,
it's the worst month, the worst week, for sure the worst week you had since 2 years.
you know what?
And that was after right after all the investors joined your fund.
You know what? And it was,
But you
and
managed to keep them. You managed to keep them. So
yes, I
how
managed
did
to
you
keep them. I
how did you
managed to
manage to
keep them
reassure them?
because number one, listen, copiers, they're not stupid, okay? They're gonna see you. They're gonna see you in a crisis. If they see that you start selling and giving excuses, that and that, then they're gonna leave you. They're gonna do an Irish exit on you, okay? They're gonna leave and you're not gonna realize what happened. But
Mhm.
if you don't do anything, and I did some buying on Friday, and then you posting during the day and you're giving them a reasoning what is happening and everything is fine. I'm not gonna sell because you know what? You have to tell them, I'm not gonna sell. I'm not selling anything, and I don't have to sell anything because I'm sitting on too much capital gains, unrealized gains. So my portfolio didn't get riskier. Nvidia is down from 140 to $100, and I'm up 330%. So my riskiest position, I'm up on it like 3x, like 4x. So, but yeah, it was incredibly unlucky that eToro recommended me one time after like 4 years. I got all those investors which I couldn't be more grateful for that trusting me. And then this happens. I'm telling you, if I didn't go on vacation and if I didn't get those copiers, we don't get the sell-off. The S&P goes to 7,000 and
Yes.
and Japan is not having a sell-off. And you know what?
Yes.
I know you're laughing, but I'm texting you this on private sometimes. And I'm telling you what I'm telling you now. I'm telling you this on private that I truly believe it that and I was
Yeah.
on vacation and I spent a little bit more money than I should have. And I'm not prepared to add a solid 5-6% in cash so I can do my moves as I like, but I still have some cash available. So yeah, if I want to apologize to the investors around the world that this sell-off is happening because of me. So there you have
That's a good one.
it.
That's a good one, and it's I'm quite happy to see that your copiers understood the message and they're staying.
Yes,
Now another very difficult milestone will be when they break even.
yes,
Unfortunately, a lot of investors they're scared when they see that their positions are in red and they are have loss aversion, so they don't want to close their positions in red,
yes,
not because they believe in the asset, but it's pure loss aversion, right?
yes,
And often as soon as it breaks even, as soon as it turns back to 0%, they sell.
they sell.
And it's very important that the new investors that you got understand that okay, your portfolio and their positions dipped by about 8%,
Mhm.
but once they will come back to zero, to break even, they shouldn't sell because you have a track record of compounding uh, just the last 2 years 79%.
Mhm.
And in the next 2 years and in the next 5 years, you will also have an impressive compound return because you're not changing your strategy. Your
Yes,
stocks are here to stay. And that's really important for the investors to understand, to stay strong when we break even, right? Because it might drop further this month, maybe in September, and it
yeah,
might break even in October. It might rise after November, December. And make sure just to stay on board for a long period of time. This is addressed to your investors, but also to mine. Make sure to be on board, to stay here for a long time. And that's the message actually we want to share today with this episode about
yeah,
about the market
and
drops.
and you're right, that's a good message, but it usually helps when the problem is not you, but the whole market. So if the S&P it's up 5% for the month and you are down 10% for the month, then you are the problem. But when the market is down,
Yes and no. Yes and no. If I can disagree with you,
yeah,
because in
please,
your case, you're very concentrated, right?
yes,
In mega cap tech.
yes.
What if there's a rotation where the S&P goes up, but the top stocks, the Mag 7 went down? Your portfolio could go down while the overall S&P is going up, right? So you're not a problem if that happens 1 month. It can happen, right?
No,
That you were a bit unlucky on the
I'm
stocks you have.
I'm concentrated, but I'm not concentrated solely on tech. My top position is UNH, it's healthcare. And then I got Walmart up there. And if you go through, I have some boring positions. I have Berkshire Hathaway as number 3 and Deere and Nexon, and I have energy. So the portfolio, because of the good performance, and you're right, when you look in the list, you're gonna catch the Microsoft and the Amazon. It's the assumption that it's just tech, but it's only 20% of the portfolio is actually tech or tech services. The rest of it is healthcare and energy and industrials and all that. So the mix of the portfolio, the allocation, is actually quite good. Why it's 8% and not 6% or 5% of drop down? That was because of crypto. On the weekend, I believe I lost 1% on Saturday and 1.5% on Sunday. So I was already 2.5%, and the 1% on Friday, 1.5%. So by the time the market opened Monday, I was already down 3 or 4%. But
So
so yeah,
that
so it was
yeah.
it was quite different, but I'm really careful on the allocation, and I'm not worried one bit. And if you look the prior months, I had a 7% month in this year, so it won't take long for me to recover. But in the meantime, I truly believe that we're gonna have this is not over yet. Maybe we're not gonna reach 10% of a correction, but it's going to be a second phase of somehow, and something has to happen. So what is reporting this week? Is it anything big reporting, or we're just waiting on Nvidia on August 28th? I can't think now.
No, there will be a couple of, until the Fed cuts rates, there will be at least two CPI reports.
Yes.
So you have those CPI reports.
Mhm.
You have some big things like that happening on
Yes.
macroeconomic level. Of course, you have the US election, which is
On the line. Yeah.
every week. The polls change a little bit, and the expectation on who's going to win changes. It will be completely different if the Kamala Harris campaign, the trend picks up, and that Kamala suddenly is the favorite. For now, Trump is still expected to win,
Yes.
but that could have a big impact if it's Kamala who is expected to win. Renewable stocks can start soaring, really, if that happens. And looking at the calendar, so we are August. Yeah, we have American Express. No, sorry, we have. Yeah, there's still a couple of earnings coming. There's like Alibaba, of course, but there's Nvidia, Salesforce, CrowdStrike. It will be interesting to see after the recent fiasco
I'm
if
I'm
there's
waiting on that
any.
one. I'm waiting on CrowdStrike because I want to get into it. And Monday was
It's the earnings are the same day as Nvidia and Salesforce, so that day is going to be crazy, August 28th.
yes. What day is it? What day of the week is it?
Wednesday, August 28th,
Okay,
and
Wednesday.
it will be in the evening. It will be in the evening.
After the
So
market
on
close.
Thursday, So on Thursday, August 29, the market will be volatile for sure.
For sure.
for sure. Because we can expect Nvidia to not smash expectations. This is my personal expectation. And then CrowdStrike, apologies, CrowdStrike, I think there will be. Sorry, I'm allergic to bad earnings. CrowdStrike, CrowdStrike might also announce some bad things related to the fiasco.
Yeah.
Salesforce, let's see, and that could all drag down a bit the S&P going into September. Yeah.
And you know what? I was thinking during this since Monday, maybe it's just time for me to do a larger than expected deposit, just to have it there. You know what? I'm like the Fed. If I do a large enough deposit of a 10-15% of cash in my portfolio, then all the issues they're gonna be resolved by themselves, and we're gonna have
Yeah.
continuation of the bull market towards the end of the year.
The only problem is that it dilutes your performance, and it dilutes both the good and the bad performance. And if you do a larger than expected deposit this month, you could have people thinking that you're just trying to dilute the bad month you had, although it makes sense to deposit more when the markets are down and to deposit less when the markets
Okay,
are up.
I see your point, and and I don't want to be accused of doing such things by some of the fellow popular investors on
Mhm.
eToro, because I'm not
Because you have some people that are watching closely and they will not
yeah,
miss publishing about it, huh?
yeah, so I'm just gonna keep it at 2% this month, and I will do a large deposit on a green month. I don't want to be accused by other people that I'm manipulating my
Yeah,
stats. So
your stats.
so thank you
You
for
could
calling
also
out.
deposit on the first day of the month, you know?
No,
You could also deposit on the first day of the month.
I
There's
never
no.
do on the first day. I usually do in the middle of the month.
Is there a reason? Like a
Yes,
specific
yes, in the
reason?
middle of the month, I want to make sure I pay all my bills and all my responsibilities,
Yeah,
and then
makes
and
sense.
yeah, and then do the deposit. Because if I do it the other way, I'm going to end up doing 3.5% deposit, and I'm not going to have any Wi-Fi or any
Yeah.
or electricity.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Dimitri. I think the conversation today was really extensive and we
Of course,
really
yes.
discussed on a lot of topics. I don't know if there was something else you wanted to mention. Uh, yeah, you're welcoming your new investors, right? I'm
Mhm.
welcoming my new investors. They also, a lot of them joined me also recently, and I think it's very smart to start investing now that the markets are down.
Yes.
But guys, careful, the markets might continue to come down. But in general, it's a good moment to start if you're in here for, for the long term.
Yeah,
So
if you're a long-term investor, this is just an opportunity for you to get started, and you
yeah.
should go into investing thinking that the money it's not for you to spend, but for you to invest, and you should account them into your month to month. So this
Mhm.
month, August, it's a good time to jump in and copy me or copy Akim, or or you
Copy
can
both of us.
or you
That's
both.
the best.
Yes,
That's the best thing to do.
that's the
All
best thing.
right. Thank you very much, Dimitri, for this conversation. Again, disclaimer, I have to say it. We have, new regulations. Whatever is said in the show is not investment advice. It's just what Dimitri does and what I do. And if you want to follow our moves and our trades, you can follow us on eToro and copy our portfolios, and then you will copy automatically our trades. Thank you for following the show, and yeah, we'll discuss again next week, and we will see if next week is better or worse. Thank you.
See you
Bye
guys on the
bye.
next one.